that the Nyeri governor, Nderitu Gachagua, is dead. Nyeri governor, Nderitu Gachagua, is dead. Reports indicate that he died in a London hospital. It's unclear what he's been ailing from. However, remember, this is not the first time that there are reports and there were rumors of his death again last year. Of course, those were rumors that were discounted by family members owing to his lack of presence and appearances in as far as functions in the county are concerned. So if you're just joining us, reports that are coming into us at this hour is the Nyeri governor, Nderitu Gachagua, is dead. He has been, of course, the governor in that county since the 2013 general election. He was seeking to run and defend his seat. As we get more information as to what he was ailing from and for how long, we will bring those details to you right here on KTN News. Now, there were, just to give you a bit of a background about his political career, at least as since he was governor of Nyeri County, the Nyeri MCAs had sought to impeach him, and he had to appear before Senate to defend himself, saying that he had misappropriated funds. Those are some of the allegations that he faced as governor. As I said, last year, there also were reports because of his absence from the public that he died. Some blogs had written about it, and his family actually came out to discount the same, saying that he was strong and that his appearance before a Senate would as well just allay those fears. But this morning, confirmed reports indicating that he is unfortunately dead. Nderitu Gachagua, our thoughts and prayers with his family and friends and, of course, the people of Nyeri County. We will bring you more details on this story as we get them. Right, we want to continue on with the show here on Worldview and talk to international relations expert. That's Abel Oyeyo, who's going to be talking to us about what's been happening in the world this week. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you for having me.
Sad news coming in this morning.
It's quite unfortunate.
Yeah. from London, that the governor there has died. But also a lot that has been happening around the world. And let's talk about Kenyans that have been registering as voters in the diaspora. And there are those who are not too happy with the news that only those in the EAC and SADC can register to vote.
Yeah, it's of course, it was expected that everyone outside there, of course, could be given a chance to vote. But unfortunately, that is not the case. And I think what we need to do is to extend the franchise to any Kenyan, wherever they might be. So if we're talking about the diaspora, it has to be all-inclusive. So when you decide that maybe guys from the southern part of Africa or maybe are the only ones who can vote, it means it's not as inclusive as you've always wanted. So it's as good as just abandoning the whole thing altogether, so that we just focus on the Kenyans within the country to vote instead of creating another battleground for fights. Yeah.
All right. And of course, IEBC has been arguing that it's an issue of budget. It's an expensive exercise. It's not
is expensive,
cheap.
I think, because, and then of course, I think the whole process of monitoring the diaspora votes, I don't think we have that kind of mechanism. Just like, and of course, we are not a very transparent country yet. The way Americans do it, because when an American votes from Kenya, the vote will be counted. But I don't think we have that kind of assurance in Kenya. So it's as good as just abandoning it and then we focus on what we have. And then the vote count is, the number is negligible. It's not very big. Yeah.
And we've not seen even the politicians push for the same, because you imagine if they felt there were significant numbers in as far as the elections is concerned from the diaspora, they'd be the ones championing for everything to be able to happen as soon as possible to get these numbers roped in to participate in the elections.
Exactly. So I think the lack of interest is also based on the numbers. It's not such a significant figure, which of course has to raise eyebrows. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on to South Africa. Xenophobic attacks once again. And we saw there the Home Affairs Minister coming out to clarify that this is not xenophobia, it's just incidents that would be happening, as usual. What do you make of this?
I don't think they're isolated incidents. It's part of a long pattern of kind of xenophobic attacks we've witnessed in South Africa for a long time now. And what it shows is South Africa has not been able to stem the problem. It's still part of the South African fabric, and they need to work very hard to make sure that people are sensitized. on how they deal with the immigrants, especially from within the continent. Yeah, so it's not a case of maybe isolated incidents as they might want us to believe.
And Nigerians specifically have come out.
They've been targeted especially, and I think that is why they're up in arms. They want to find out what the South African government is doing to stop that. Because South Africans also travel to other parts of Africa, and they expect their people to be taken care of. So when they watch Nigerians get attacked, Kenyans get attacked, it's not fair. It's not, what we need as a continent.
Yeah. Because their envoy, South Africa's envoy, been summoned in Nigeria to be able to talk about this.
What's going on? They're very agitated. They're angry. They don't like it. Just like the Kenyan population was concerned last time when there were attacks on Kenyans as well. So South Africa, I think, has exhibited some funny inability to deal with it.
And what is it that brings about this xenophobia? Is it, on one hand, you hear it's a fight for jobs, the little that is available. Everyone was trying to get a hand in that. Then there are those who are accusing the other nationals of, being involved in criminal activities.
Basically, I think it's, let's call it economic anxiety. South Africans think that, foreigners from some parts of Africa go down there and take their jobs and get into business. Like Kenyans have been very successful in South Africa in terms of business. So they don't like that. But again, of course, when we talk about the enterprising spirit, people have to be allowed to travel, and so long as they're doing what's legitimate and legal, they should be allowed to do that kind of work, because Kenya is open. We welcome everyone, and so long as you work hard and obey the law, it's okay. So South Africa should be the same. And in fact, we expect more from them because they've had a very sad experience of tension between races and all that. So they should be showing the way in terms of welcoming guests and immigrants and visitors. But it's a very bad example.
So they're yet to completely heal from that kind of history that they have had.
So it's not been dealt with properly. So there is a problem. Because it's been recurring. It's not a one-off kind of thing.
Because it's not the first time you're hearing about xenophobic attacks. You know, it's each around, depending on what's going on in the country. So this time around, again, hearing of the same. But let's stay with South Africa and now the matter of ICC. And, the court ruling that it is not
going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Constitutionally, that is in breach of the law.
That was expected, of course, because the whole issue of trying to move South Africa from the ICC was pushed by politicians. And there's a serious disconnect between politicians in South Africa and the legal sector of the country. So the law, I think the courts are showing up and telling people, hey, telling the politicians, you cannot just pull the country out of the ICC, especially now that the president is very unpopular. There have been numerous attempts, of course, to kick him out of power, and the politicians aligned to side are the ones who are championing the exit from the ICC. Of course, we've seen it all over Africa, so many countries planning to exit the ICC due to, of course, some fear of being prosecuted. And the courts, I think, have affirmed the sentiments of most South Africans.
So is there a sentiment that, Zuma wanted this to happen as self-preservation, or really are there legitimate concerns? Because the critic of the ICC here in Africa has been, this is a case, or rather a court, that has been put in place to simply just target Africans, that there are other atrocities around the world and we don't see that kind of vigor in pursuing the same. So is there merit to, he did it for self-preservation?
To some extent you can say yes, because of what he's been able to do in terms of corruption. But of course, when it comes to...
But this is a court on crimes against humanity type. Corruption is not quite the league of ICC.
I think what he wanted to do is to demonstrate some kind of solidarity with some African countries like Kenya and maybe Burundi that wanted to exit. And of course, he's not been implicated in the serious crimes against humanity for him to be so much concerned. So I don't think it was so much about actually pulling South Africa out of the ICC, but so much about trying to showcase of we can also pull out if you don't stop focusing on or targeting our leaders. Of course, Africa is the home of impunity.
Unfortunately.
It's unfortunate.
Not a good thing to say, but a lot of impunity. Then there's the US. Trump. Every other day there's something new. What has stuck out for you this week?
The president made a very nice choice when it comes to national security advisor. He nominated McMaster. Very, very decorated and experienced general, and of course, he has support from both sides of the political divide. Democrats like him, Republicans like him.
Yeah.
So that is going to be a steady hand in matters national security. Of course, is a replacement of some very, very questionable figure, Michael Flynn, who went making phone calls to Russians and talking about sanctions, something he was not given freedom to, or even permission to talk about. And then he went ahead to mislead the vice president.
Yes.
So it's a nice choice. Of course, it's the silver lining in a long history of mistakes for the Trump administration. Yeah.
Where is the U.S. standing in terms of her relations with Russia now? Because that is one country. It's interesting in terms of talking about the U.S. and their politics and foreign policy. That Russia keeps coming up, but when it comes to Trump, it is not in the same breath as we have seen the narrative.
Russia is a very controversial subject in the U.S. as we speak today, because the Congress, the Senate Intelligence Committee, are all looking into how the Trump campaign was trying to do things to deal with the Russians. And I don't expect Trump to be tough on Russia, because, the Russians basically assisted him to get elected by hacking the DNC and releasing the emails in bits. So he's not going to be tough. And of course, he's gotten to nominate guys who are very friendly to Russia, like the Secretary of State, Tillerson.
Yes.
He has a history of working with Russia. But of course, I expect again the Americans, as citizens and Congress, to be very, very vigilant on how Trump deals with Russia. Of course, I think everyone is waiting to see what the Intelligence Committee comes up with from the investigations. As you can see, Flynn was talking to Russians. Trump has been praising Putin in some areas. So Americans are concerned, and it is genuine concern, because it goes back to the Cold War. Americans can never work with the Russians, apart from on some, selected areas.
Yeah. And finally, of course, in the UK, it's a big story as to whether to have Trump over or not. Debate, of course, has seen a lot of those members of parliament come out to say it shouldn't be allowed. And there's also many Brits that have actually, they sent a petition to allow for the same to be discussed in the House. So do you see that visit happening?
Well, it's going to happen, of course, as a state visit, but it's going to be marked by serious protests. You should expect them. London is going to be full of protests when it happens. And of course, May was welcomed to the Oval Office. So he's going to return that kind of gesture. But it's going to be very, very hostile to Trump. Not because he's a bad person, but he's not able to pretend.
Is he not a bad person?
I don't think he is. He is a good person, because when he promises something, he delivers. So all you have to do is to make sure you don't allow him to do that. He talked about a wall when he was campaigning. He's serious. He wants to do it.
Well, until it is done, we'll wait to see if he's a man of his words. And of course, there's a transgender issue as well, and the toilets, and whether they get to choose where they're going. That was a big story in the past week. So definitely, we'll be waiting to see how those stories develop as the week comes in. Now we're ending this one. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.
Abel Oyeyo, international relations expert, with us here on Worldview.